Delivery for the Doctor. Thank you, Mr. Kerblam Man. Thank you. Remember, if you want it, Kerblam it. Great conversation, guys. May I recommend keeping all social interactions to the rest break? I am on my break. I'm doing a review. Oh, I see. Robots. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here and welcome to my review of, or rather revisitation review, of Doctor Who Series 11 Episode 7, Kerblam, which is the first title to feature an exclamation mark in the title of a Doctor Who episode, although they did miss a trick, as in the actual episode Kerblam, the Kerblam logo has the exclamation mark where the L is, so they missed the trick of not just putting it there in the title. Anyway, the plot of Kerblam sees the Doctor receiving a parcel from Kerblam, which has a fez inside. Yay! So maybe the 11th Doctor ordered it. But inside the package is with the packaging slip, is the words "help me." So someone is clearly asking for help, or a joke. But they decide to investigate anyway, and they start to investigate a conspiracy within Kerblam. Something is happening there, and they need to find out what it is. And that's basically the plot of the story, more or less, or at least a summary of the plot. So, Kerblam, this is a really fun and engaging episode, written by Doctor Who fan Pete Matee, or Ty, who, of course, as we all know, would go on to do a lot of contributions to the Doctor Who, the collection Blu-ray box set range, most notably the booklets inside the box sets, as well as the brilliant trailers, the announcement trailers for the box sets, apart from season 12, which didn't have one. But yeah, he usually writes and directs the trailers for these box set releases, the announcement trailers, and then also the booklets and maybe one or two other extras. So yeah, and Peter Teague knows what he's doing, and he's a big Doctor Who fan. And his first episode in the official series is really great. This is a really fun episode. It might be, I think out of the first 7, this one would probably come in the middle. It's probably my 4th favourite. Just because I think the 1st, 3rd, and 6th ones are slightly better, but I would put it above the 2nd, 4th, and 5th. But yeah, this is a really fun episode. It's great to see the Doctor and company go undercover in different roles. It's actually pretty good to see Ryan have some character moments to shine, as he used to work, or he worked in a warehouse, a delivery warehouse like this, and so it ties in with his job, and it's him because he makes a comment about him going all across the universe, and he's back at work, is what gives the Doctor the idea to go undercover. So there's some good moments with him, talking about him going being in the warehouse. He doesn't have an awful lot of growth or development, but there's a few good things with him in this episode. Yaz and Graham don't really get a huge amount of character growth or development in this episode, but they're still really fun in the scenes they're in. With the Doctor and Ryan, they go to the packaging bit. Yaz is in the area where they have to send the items down to be packaged, and Graham is the janitor, basically, as they would say in America, the caretaker, the cleaning up guy. And amongst them, they have to try and work out what's going on. They meet some new friends, they get into tangles with the bosses, and they just try to investigate what's going on. And it's really done well, as we're building up the story and the mystery and the tension, especially when people start to go missing more frequently, such as Dan, not to be confused with Dan played by John Bishop in Series 13, but this Dan is played by Lee Mack, who sadly only has a few minutes of screen time. It's a shame. He's taken and disappeared not too long later. Let's talk about the visuals first, because I usually talk about characters and plot first in this episode, in these reviews. But let's talk about the visuals. Now, the visuals, again, look really great, but there are some CG stuff that doesn't look that convincing. Then it's mostly the stuff where they go into the conveyor belt stuff. That there's a lot of clearly obvious CG there. Also, the spoiler, these bubble wrap that turns out to be bombs. Some of the effects are, I wouldn't say perfect for that. I mean, they're okay, but I wouldn't say they're perfect. But besides those, the visual effects are really great in this episode, as per usual, and it looks stunning once again. This episode was directed by Jennifer Parrott, who directed the Saranga Conundrum, so we once again have a great looking episode. The Kerblam location on the outside looks really great, but the best stuff is the usual interior sets, especially when it makes it look like a just a plain old warehouse later on in the episode. You're mixing kind of a modern style upstairs with this more grimy underground bit later on that feels a bit more old-fashioned. And Second Akinola once again does a great score for this episode, especially when helping to build up the tension of the story. So back to the story and characters. Really enjoyed the Doctor and the companions in this episode. Jodie Whittaker is definitely going all for it this time round. Really great performance. And I think the Doctor's handled really well as well. So, like I said, I thought Ryan was done well, and Tosin Cole does a good job. Yaz is good. She gets to talk and hang out with Dan, and has a slight emotional bit with his character in that bit. When I say emotional, when Dan disappears, she finds his little necklace thing that his daughter gave him and wants to give it back to her at the end of the episode. So that's some good stuff. And Mandip Gill, really great. And of course, Bradley Walsh is fantastic as Graham. Graham is just awesome. And Bradley Walsh is fantastic. Love him. Supporting characters wise, we've got the head of human resources. She's really good. Character and the actress does a great job. We've got Kira Ardo, who's probably my favourite of the supporting characters, and it's such a shame when she's taken and killed. But more on that later. But she's really sweet and really fun. We got this guy who starts out as this nasty boss guy, but it turns out he's been investigating the disappearances as well, and he ends up being a pretty decent guy in the end. Again, actor also does a really good job. Lee Mack as Dan. Lee Mack's great, but whilst Dan's a great character, he's not there for too long. And Charlie, more on him later, but he's an interesting character, and it's pretty sweet seeing him and Kira in a sort of not quite a relationship, but they clearly like each other. And the actor, of course, does a really great job. Also, the voices of the Kerblam men and also Twirly, the original Kerblam sales bot, delivery bot thing, they're really great as well. We're about to go into spoiler territory for this story, so be aware. Okay, so it turns out that the system is the one who needs help. It's calling for help from the Doctor because a person at Kerblam is misusing it, has been abusing it, and has been trying to have the robots kidnap people in order to test them in a test to see if people will die as part of a big scheme to send out a lot of delivery bots to kill lots of customers. Because the person responsible thinks that just having 10% human workers is not enough, and it's going to get worse for the people on the planet. So yeah, this is basically a rebellion of someone who wants to take action. I suppose they want the humans to have more jobs than the robots, or at least not get less jobs. On the planet Kandoka, it's required that 10% at minimum of the workforce should be human, and there's a lot of people unemployed. So that seems to be where this character is motivated with that. Thing is, though, you can't really blame Kerblam too much because it's 10%. It's probably not the only one that's 10%. There's probably other places that are 10%, and it probably wouldn't just be Kerblam that influenced Tandokan laws. But regardless, this guy just wants to destroy Kerblam because it's only allowing 10% of humanoid workers. Even though there's about 10,000 of them, according to human resources lady. So it turns out it's Charlie who's the one responsible. He's hacked the system, and he's started to get Kerblam robots to kidnap some of the workers and have them killed with the bubble wrap and turn them into goo. And then he plans to send the robots out to do that for lots of other people because Kerblam only allows 10% of its workforce. Well, Kerblam and the planet Kandoka only allow, say, minimum of 10% for human workforce, and he doesn't want that to go any lower. He wants people to have more jobs. However, the system attempts to start fighting back. It tries to kill him. It sends help messages to the Doctor, and then it actively goes and kills Kira because Charlie started to fancy her. Oh, Kerblam system, you didn't need to kill Kira. You didn't need to do that. In fact, it's probably what pushed him over the edge. Well done, Kerblam system. You almost ruined it for yourself. You're just lucky the Doctor was here to help you as you asked, because otherwise you would have been toast and everybody else would have been soup. Naughty, naughty Kerblam system. Naughty, naughty. We know you're under threat, but naughty, naughty. Especially as Kira was so sweet and so likeable. The climax is done pretty quickly and may not be to everybody's taste. I know Mr. TARDIS reviews sort of criticised the ending. Now, the actual climax itself sees the Doctor managing to send the parcels back to the delivery bots themselves, and they press the bubble wrap, which allows them to blow themselves up, whilst everyone except Charlie escapes. He is given the chance to escape. Graham and the Doctor give him the chance to come and join them, but in the end, he just stands around doing nothing. Some people complain that the Doctor just left Charlie to die, but that's not the case. She and Graham gave him chances to come back up and joined him to escape before the Kerblam men blew themselves up. But nope, he just stood around there and just aimlessly, I suppose, actually, in the episode, it was a bit of an aimless stand around. But yeah, let's get one thing clear. The Doctor didn't just leave Charlie to die without giving him a chance. She gave him a chance. Graham gave him a chance. They gave him the chance to come back up, and he just stood around aimlessly. So, yeah, the Doctor just didn't leave him without any chances. Okay? We clear? Good. The ending sees Kerblam closing down for a month, giving people 2 weeks paid leave. Wait, only 2 weeks paid leave? But what about the rest of the month? What about, why not give them a whole month's paid leave if you're going to be closed for for a month? Oh. Capitalists, am I right? Anyway, so that's more or less the end of the episode. Kerblam is going to rebuild itself, and the TARDIS team go off to give Dan's daughter Dan's necklace to her. And also, there's this thing in the at the end of the episode where Graham's playing with this Kerblam bubble wrap, but he's warned against playing it, and then they all have a quick look at the box at the very end. But if that was the box that the Doctor's Fez came in, she actually pressed a bubble wrap in that bit. So at the start. So if that's the bubble wrap from that box, wouldn't that be safe? Because the Doctor didn't disintegrate it, and I'm pretty sure the system would have allowed for non-lethal bubble wrap to be placed in that box. Not to mention, I'm wondering how much of the actual bubble wrap was was the explosive ones and what was plain. Either way, I don't think they needed that final bit with the Kerblam box and the bubble wrap. We could have just ended on Yaz saying they wanted to go down to the planet to give Dan's daughter back the necklace. Maybe we could even go down to the planet and see what things were like. That's one thing this episode didn't show, is that we didn't go down to the planet to see how life was affected down there. Mr. TARDIS Reviews actually just touched upon this, and he said it'd be interesting to do a Bad Wolf Parting the Ways sort of thing, where Kerblam is like the long game. The Doctor and company arrive here, they do their stuff, they think they make things a bit better, and then they come back like, well, in Bad Wolf, it was 100 years later to what happened in Long Game, so they could turn up at a later point and see how things have happened and whether they've made it better or worse. So that would be an interesting story at some point. So if Pete Natig is writing for Series 13, that might be an interesting story to tell, or he's telling the future. That being said, they might get their Dans mixed up. Oh, and before we wrap up, the Kerblam robots are really great design, and great creepy threat. So Kerblam, this is a really great episode, really fun, really enjoyable, some great characters. It's a pretty great story. The climax isn't perfect, but it's good. Also, the message of the story seems to be kind of like, it's like what's happening with Amazon at places. I love Amazon as a shopping online shopping store and as a company, but how workers have been rumored to be, or rather reported have to be experiencing the conditions in their workhouses warehouses hasn't always been very good. So this episode might be taking inspiration from that, but it seems to be more on the side of the company rather than the people, as it's saying that the people can abuse the system. And whilst this is completely true, people can abuse the system itself isn't always perfect. Whilst Kerblam's might be a good system, apart from when it killed Kira Arlo, it's definitely not the best message outright there. But then again, like I said, people can just as easily abuse the system as the system can abuse the people. It's sort of a double-edged sword. So, yeah, the message is a bit murky, but it's not a completely bad message. It might just be a bit murky. So, considering all of that, I will be giving Kerblam a 9 out of 10. Most fun episode of the series so far as well. It's just a really fun, enjoyable episode. It's just maybe the message and also the climax. They don't 100% work, but the majority of the episode is really fun and enjoyable and some really great stuff. And some great performances, some great visuals, apart from the conveyor belt stuff. That's not so great. And actually that conveyor belt scene, despite the visuals looking a bit fake, it's still quite fun. And yeah, it's a really enjoyable episode, so I totally recommend checking this episode out. It's really fun and enjoyable. And remembering that conveyor belt scene, and slight nitpick about Ryan when he's talking about going down the things, he then stops and goes, "Oh, by the way, I'm dyslexic. I'm not very good at this." Why did you stop and then go, "Oh yeah, I just remembered. I've got to remind you about this." Why didn't you say it when you were doing your little talk about the conveyor belts, saying we can use the conveyor belts to get down to the lower levels? But I'm dyslexic. Maybe it wouldn't be a good idea for me. Oh, to hell with it. Let's do it. So that would have been a kind of a better sort of thing to how it was in the episode. But, I'm not going to bash on it too much. Anyway, so that's Kerblam. That was a great episode. Really fun, really enjoyable. Tune in next time for the third historical episode of this series, and the historical episode that probably puts the Doctor herself in the most danger, or at least at risk of danger. The Witchfinders. It's also the only Whittaker story to be set in the only Whittaker historical story to be set in the UK so far. So, see you guys next time for The Witchfinders. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel.